Hey guys, Mario Kart here. I want to do another general video to kind of go meta on the project. I've been doing a lot of like things about the project rather than specific content, like for the project in the sense of like talking about specific things. And I feel like even talking about the project itself is still more content of the project. Anyways, I want to just lay down some more, just kind of grounding and ethical foundation, and to really sort of focus around that because it makes me feel more comfortable with sharing myself and doing this whole project. And it just feels important to me to do because sometimes I can reflect back on my videos, like the last few videos I've done. I can be very critical, I can be perfectionistic, and I can look for feedback from myself, and I think that's helpful. And I think that process is good, and that's why I do this project, because I can express myself and I can share myself, and I can reflect on that, and I can see what I think works and what doesn't work too much, and I'm constantly in a kind of changing process. But with that, I also feel a sense of responsibility for what I say, for how I express myself, for really being considerate, really being accurate, being necessary in the moment, and not putting things out or saying different things that I don't really mean, or not following up when I feel like I could be a bit more authentic or a bit more good, or could change something in some way. But the thing is, it's tricky because then I get perfectionistic about that, you know? So it's kind of like I have this balance between wanting to adapt and to do better and to correct myself, but also just being okay with you know, maybe sometimes saying some things that I don't really mean, or being a little confused, or this and that. So I'm looking for that balance. Anyways, the video is essentially just to establish some ethical consideration and my own ethical importances. I wish to ideally ground my project in this. That was the kind of, I got my notes here, where I started from. I don't really, like, I just feel like I need to, like, I've already done this a bit, but I need to just be more clear about my intentions with the project so that, you know, I can stay on the right page, and you watching, if that's what's happening, can kind of have this sort of disclaimer, and I think it fits the nature of the project well to have a strong sort of intentionality, or I don't know, almost advisory, or descriptive organization, blah blah. So I wanted to start off with some considerations that I have, some things that I think about, like I don't really have answers, or I don't really feel like I know sometimes. At the same time, I know that I don't know, and I do have answers because I can't stop thinking about them, and I'm very curious for answers. And a lot of people, I get the sense that aren't always interested in questions or certain considerations that I seem to hold, and some people are. It really just depends on what we consider important. But certain things that I find important, I look for answers for, like, what do I do with myself? How do I deal with my feelings? Why do I have the feelings that I have? Why am I the way that I am? Why is the world the way that it is, the way that I observe it? What do my observations mean? What determines meaning? What determines the meaning that I create? How come one person can have some same experience, something that I can have the same experience, have a totally different meaning or sort of reaction towards it? So I have a lot of these questions, and I feel like the more I question things, the more questions you get, because you get an answer, but then what's the answer to that? Like, you can question the answer, which gives you more answers and more questions, you know? It's like a never-ending sort of fractal, and that's cool, and I think that's just kind of the nature of life, the nature of inquiry. So I think I'm here to contemplate and to inquire, and I want to get comfortable with this sense that, like, I can come up with answers, I can come up with explanations, but if I'm honest, everything kind of seems to be in flux. And I talk about this a lot because I think it's important, and I can sort of say something one day and then think of it totally different another time, with more experience, with more kind of observation of things, and just noticing stuff, and sort of changing my views, or having a different sort of perspective. And I think it's important to keep that in mind with this project. I kind of already like stated that a bit. And then there's like the problem of like authority and knowing and stuff. And I feel like when you're expressing yourself and you're sharing your sort of views or your opinions, or your answers, or your knowledge, or your sort of self like that, it comes with a sort of authoritative responsibility, because I think that we have authority, you know, we have a sense of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and I think that's almost divine. That's like our spiritual sort of like duty to recognize that, you know, even if free will is an illusion, it's still nonetheless what's happening, and we're still creating, we're still showing up for life, and what we create in the world, what we sort of are, what we do, I think it matters, because sometimes we can create things that doesn't make us feel good, or doesn't make others feel good, or is bad. And what determines the badness of ourselves, of our actions? Well, I think we do. I think we're our own sort of authority on things. Even if people outside of you give you the feedback that something is bad, you still have to have that recognition. You still have to have that ownership and that sort of agenda towards, oh, I'm getting this feedback, people don't like this, and you have to care about that. I think that ultimately the authority always comes back to you. So I feel like with this project, I'm looking to express myself. I'm looking to express my thoughts and my feelings and myself and all of this. And I want to respect my own authority and my own ability to do so. But the goal is to really find the proper practicality in doing so, because I think that it's too easy to put too much of ourselves out, or to be inconsiderate with our perspective, perhaps, or to just hold our own perspective, our own answers, our own sort of truth, you know, and to either reject that, or to not have that, or to not think through things, to not have a real voice, a real sort of answer or authority to yourself, and to not take that seriously, or to diminish yourself, say, oh, I'm too stupid for that, or I don't know. And I'm really talking to myself here. Or to do the opposite, where you have to know everything, you have to have all the answers, you need to be the one who's right, the one who has it figured out, almost like in a compensatory sort of fashion. And I think I can fall into both categories, and that's why I want to sort of find a proper balance, you know, where I think that it's tricky, because there's so much available, there's so much ideas, there's so much information, there's so much to take in, there's so much happening, especially now when I feel like we're so in our minds. So much of our survival, it's less like us having to worry about like bears and people punching us in the face, or, you know, maybe we do have those concerns. I can't speak for everyone, and there's a lot of detail and nuance to our survival. It's unfortunate that people have to go down the streets and they have to worry about someone punching them in the face, or being physically attacked or assaulted in some way. But at least for me, so much of my survival, so much of my fear and my worry and my sense of this sort of will to live in me happens in my mind, happens in my ideas, happens in my sort of ideology, my thinking and all, and or in my emotions, or in my feelings, and in like relationship, or related to my sense of belonging, my sense of being enough, being real, being worthy, being loved, being seen, you know, or feeling safe. I guess that's kind of a general way to put it. Anyways, I feel like our survival is so much more different now, and it's so much more focused around our thinking, and I think it's kind of uncomfortable, at least I find. And I think that we have the problems that we do with sort of groupthink and I don't know, echo chambers and this and that, and these sort of tribalizations of our thought patterns. Maybe that's how we cope with this sense of looking for answers, looking for some sort of solidarity in this sort of quicksand of our minds, of our understandings. Because I don't know about you, I just feel like as I question things more, or as I kind of show up in the world, or I show up to my emotions, where in the sense that like I just pay attention to myself, I pay attention to the questions that I have, the feelings that I have, the sort of stuff within my field of consciousness, as my attention notices that, and the kind of inquiry, the kind of thoughts which come up from that. Or was it, fuck, I like went on a tangent, now I forgot the point I was making. I'm not giving up on it though. Right. As I do that sort of process of inquiry, I find that it can be hard to have a sort of ground, or a sense of like, this is real, this is what's important, this is who I am. And I think that's tricky. And I think when we don't do that, we look for a sense of self, and we don't face up to that, maybe that confusion which is in us, that sense of not really knowing. And I think that we can use our emotions, we can use the ways that we feel, those can kind of fuel our assertions, the things we find important. Obviously they do, because if you weren't hungry, you wouldn't be looking for food, you wouldn't be willing to kill someone for food. And I think our emotions can sort of determine this sense of desperation, or clinging, or possession over our thoughts, over the way we think, over our sort of tribalization, over our sort of very black and white sort of thinking, perhaps. And I feel like I understand that. I feel like I understand why our minds can be so uncomfortable, why we see the sort of patterns that we do, and why we're getting the sort of phenomena that we get with mass information and social interconnection and technological sort of collective hive mind matrices. Because it's a lot. There's a lot to consider, and I think it's threatening. I would imagine, and I guess my goal with this, it's to not have the, maybe there's a part of me which wants to have the answers, wants to have things figured out, you know, there's the smart ass in here, because I guess it's important to me, because like, fuck, what else am I gonna do? I'm not gonna think about shit, I'm not gonna look for answers, I'm not gonna care. I can't not do that, but it's just learning to do that in a smart way, because sometimes when I question shit too much, I can just be a dumbass. Like, I can just sort of ignore my own intuition, and I feel like I'm looking so much to know. Sometimes I can't just sort of trust myself. I can't just let myself be enough, or I can't just be confused. And sometimes I find when we can just let ourselves be confused, and we can just feel the way that we do, sometimes we can come to a sort of intuitive insight about something, which we can then think more about, which we can then turn into some sort of reasonable understanding and practical sort of knowledge, you know? Like, for example, on this channel, like, sometimes I will be talking about something, and I will realize that, like I will just pay attention to my feelings. I will pay attention to the sense of, like, man, like, I'm trying to find something here. I'm trying to, and like the last few ones I was talking about, like, importance, what's important, and it's like, as I do this sort of inquiry, like, it's tricky. It brings up some emotions in me, because I'm questioning my own, like, sense of inherent, like, love or worthiness or value, or like score, I guess. and like genuinely going into that and considering that and thinking through it, it's challenging. So my goal with the project is to really be an ally, perhaps, and to do my best with this project and to sort of express and embody my way or my approach to making sense, to inquiry, to doing better, really, to share my approach for the sake of my own organization, and because I care about it, because it's something that I guess I feel passionate about and something that I want to share. And it's tricky because I also feel like it's individual. Maybe there's general patterns or trends to development, if that's what's happening, if we could say that there's a development, which yeah, I think you could say. It's just like then you have to put one over the other, which is tricky. But I'm not opposed to that. So I think maybe there's certain trends within development, within like inquiry or understanding or doing better, this and that sort of thing. But I think it all is entirely dependent upon your own sort of individuality, your own experience, your own sort of uniqueness. The same way no two flowers look the exact same, blah blah. It's just the universe is just a matrix of differences. There's no, you never step into the same river twice. Ooh. So maybe there's something you find helpful with this. Maybe not, but I think chiefly it's really for me. It's helpful for me. It's helpful to express myself, and I want to be careful. I want to be considerate with that, because I realize that like a lot of my own stuff, my own feelings, I can put that out, and then like sometimes I gaslight myself. Sometimes I'm not clear. Sometimes I'm not very nice to myself. Sometimes I'm not just nice in general. Sometimes I behave in ways which I think back and I think, maybe I didn't need to be that way. Then it makes me feel guilty, or it makes me feel upset, and it's like, is this the best thing I want to put out? What if someone sees this and they get some sort of sense, and I put these aspects of myself that I learned to sort of view in a more healthy way, perhaps, which I've determined after sort of recognition, blah blah, and I'm like, oh fuck, and like, it's important to me, but I feel like through giving this sort of disclaimer, I want people to know that like, be careful with the information you get, and if something doesn't work for you, then I understand, and that's totally obviously okay. But I think at the same time, like when something doesn't work for us, it's interesting to like consider like, why, what do we not like about this, what are we getting from this, and to maybe be considerate towards that, because sometimes I'll notice there's something that I don't like, something I have a sort of closed reaction to, and sometimes it gives me like a space to inquire, like, what is it about that I don't like? Is there maybe something that I need to learn from that? Or do I not like it because it's something I've already sort of learned, something that doesn't just fit with what I find important now? Something maybe I've outgrown, or I can be very like overthinky about this kind of stuff. So I'm not really here to give anyone advice except myself. I'm here to advise myself. But I am sharing this, and I do, even if I can say, be skeptical of everything I say, fucking think for yourself, and it's not my fault if you take my thoughts and you do something with it. No, we're all influencing each other. When I put myself in there, when I express myself, that's going to have an influence on you if you're listening and you're paying attention, for either better or for worse. And I feel like you have to accept that responsibility. And I think I can give disclaimer, and I can give a sort of recognition of that, and I can go meta on that, but it doesn't excuse me from the fact that I'm putting myself out there and I'm expressing myself, and I have a certain responsibility, and maybe I will hurt someone. Maybe I will make someone feel bad. But that's kind of the chance that you have to take. And I think if you're not willing to potentially make someone feel a way that you don't want them to feel for some reason or another, you're going to probably end up making people feel bad, because then you're sabotaging your own self, your own authenticity, your own expression, your own best guess. And I feel like when we're not doing that, we can't get the proper feedback. We can't learn. We can't learn because we're not acting from who we really are. We don't actually see ourselves. We don't actually have to take ourselves into consideration on expression, on feedback, on relation, on that self that we are relating to the world. So I've been feeling good. I've been feeling quite safe recently. I've been feeling quite like a lot of this work, this communication work I've been doing and learning to express myself, it's been paying off in my relationships between just to myself, to others, to friends, to family, and I've been quite pleased. It's been good. So I just wanted to make a quick thing here. I was aiming for 10 minutes, and of course we're like 20 minutes into this shit. But it's okay. I'm not too worried about that. I'm gonna go do the fattest fucking sit downstairs, and I'll catch you guys later.